Hello everyone, welcome to this lesson about George Benson and how he plays blues on a jazz guitar. Coming right up. Now before we get started, let me tell you what my plan is with this series. I'm planning 4 videos, 2 of which will be right here on YouTube, but this is the first one. And those 2 videos will be about the way that George Benson plays blues on major tunes. Those can be both major blueses or standards in a major key. Then I will make a video for Patreon only that will dive into a way to have that same kind of bluesy feeling on minor tunes, which is very different. Also different kind of licks and tricks. And then I will make a final video in which I will dive into how to play blues on 2-5-1s. And the reason is that my blues playing before I started studying George Benson was mainly based on the way Ulva Kenius, a great, I think Danish guitar player, or he's from Scandinavia, a great guitar player who played with Oscar Peterson, that has really good blues vocabulary for jazz, right? And when I wanted to capture that sound myself, that's the guy I went to, that's the guy I studied, because it was so clean and so precise. And I still maintain that if you want to get into that way of playing, it's probably the best start, right? You could also, of course, go to Grant Green and parts of Joe Pass playing and Wes Montgomery. That's all great, but Ulva Kenius, it is so clean, it is so precise that if you start from scratch, if you learn some of those blues licks, it will give you a good foundation to then go and study players before him like Grant Green. So that last video I'm going to make for you for Patreon will be about that language, and I think it's the best start for blues playing. But for this lesson I'm going to dive into George Benson, and I prepared 7 phrases for you. I didn't transcribe them from a blues per se, I transcribed them from normal jazz standards or other songs, but I'm going to demonstrate them on a blues backing track, which you can find right here on YouTube too. There's a link in the description. And I'm going to demonstrate the full phrase always, but I'm also going to demonstrate what it makes, what the thing is in that little phrase or in that lick that makes it bluesy. So this first one sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. So the thing in this phrase, of course, is this pentatonic. Right, this pentatonic lick. And now you might think, oh, I already know the pentatonic scale. But the way this works is that you play some 8th notes followed by triplets, followed by 8th notes. And it's very easy to do it if you realize how to do it. So to realize that the triplets start on your first finger, on F, and then there's triplets down, and they end on your first finger on E flat. So before you get 2 8th notes, now you get 2 triplets, and you end, and then there's a couple of 8th notes again. So on the triplets would be, they're on beat 4 and 1, so 3, 1, 2, 3. Right, you start on the beat, you end on the beat. And that's the thing that for me makes it bluesy, that combination of the pentatonic scale mixed with 8th notes and triplets. So if you want to do that, let's say on E flat 7, it would be here. Right? So in a blues we can play it both on B flat. It says B flat here, but it could be B flat 6 or B flat 7. That doesn't really matter because blues is blues, and it works both on dominant chords and on just on major chords, on 1 chord or 4 chords. So let me demonstrate it on a blues, and I might not be playing the whole phrase. The whole phrase is very nice, but I want to focus on that part of it. So here we go, blues in B flat. So that's our first principle, pentatonic scale, with the triplet starting on the first finger, ending on the first finger. Going to the next phrase and principle, sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this lick has two principles. The first one you'll find in the first bar. This little thing. You could also do. So you have the minor third here on the chord, right? It's B flat 7, and you have minor third, and you slide to the E flat, or you make a little slide up and down from the E flat. Right? It's very bluesy. Maybe you already knew that, but the thing that is really striking, of course, is this thing. So how do you do it? You hammer on to the third, and now you play this bar with the third finger, and you just sweep up, and then you play down on the E flat. So, and those sweeps up, it's not very important that you hear all the notes, or that it is completely like a triplet. It's just the way I wrote it down. What's important is that you end on the beat on the E flat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So let me improvise a little bit on the blues, and I can use both principles, right? And one E flat. Very bluesy, very cool, and a trick that you should really add to your repertoire. Next one. Here we have a bend from a G to A flat. So we bend to the minor 7. So the whole phrase sounds like 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so it's this little bend from the G to the A flat. I think this is the little lick that you should really pick up from this complete phrase. The ending is nice too, because it ends on the 7. It's almost a separate thing. You could learn it by itself. Okay. Let's make a little solo where we use all principles so far, right? So we have three. We have this little thing. We have, and the first one was, what's the first one again? I want to make sure I have the right one. Oh, yeah, the triplets. Okay, so we're going to use all three of them. Just make a little solo with those tricks. Be very effective with only these tools. So one time actually I started the triplets from the C, and then of course it didn't end well. So that's why it's important to start those triplets on your first finger. Let's go to lick number 4. Okay, so here's another principle. 3, 4. There's two principles. It's the fact that you can also slide to the A flat. It's kind of a different sound from the bend. Or I would say that the slide is a little bit more jazzy and the bend is a little bit more bluesy, right? Not to say that the slide is not bluesy. It is bluesy and jazzy, and the bend is pure blues. Or and then the other thing is where you just play the third and the fourth of the chord, right? Alternating with the root in between. And you can either hammer on to the third, you can slide. Right? What also nice is to do the slide on a little delay like this. You wait a little bit with that note. It's very difficult to write it down. I wrote it down just on the beat, but you could just wait a little bit. 3, 4. Right, just a little breath there. Okay, let me play that a little bit. So now we get to some licks, some pedal point licks, or with a pedal note, which means that there is one note that keeps ringing. It's also an illusion because the note doesn't really keep ringing. You just play it a couple of times as a double stop with melody notes that you play underneath it. So this lick sounds like this: 3, 4, 1. 4, 1. E flat, 3, 4, It's very curious to see that it actually starts with that pedal note alone, and then there's another note. And the thing is, when you hear this being played by George Benson, let me just say that I didn't realize that it was like this. When I wrote it down, I was like, oh, he just first plays that note, and then he plays another note. most difficult thing is to have that pedal note sound clean without muffling it by putting your finger on the fret or something, or muting it with another finger. And that's something that I find difficult too. Okay, let me play that. By itself is of course a little bit boring. You have to mix it in with other phrases. For example, with the next phrase, which is another pedal point lick, but now they're not the B flats on top, but the 6, so the G. So this sounds like 3, 4, or 3, 4, 3, 4. So the first bar you can just keep repeating that. And the second bar is just a way to get out of it. But you can just, actually you can play any note you want or any combination under the G, consisting of a B flat, a C, a D flat and a G on the G string. So and the thing is, you don't have to play that on a different place of the guitar if you play it in E flat or on the blues in B flat when the E flat chord is there. The rule is when you have this 6 on top of the main key, so the main key is B flat, and you put the G on top, you can play it over any of the chords in the blues. So you can play it on E flat 7, on F7. You shouldn't actually really move that. You have to do that when you put the root on top, right? But with this, it fits over all those chords. Now, of course, if you have a blues in E flat, then you have to put the C on top. But then you can also play that on top of the A flat 7 that's in that blues. So for example, if you do a blues in F, you put a D on top. And you keep that D there even though there's a B flat maybe in the blues, right? So let me play the B flat version. Maybe I'll combine it with the previous pedal lick. Of course, you cannot only play a solo with only these 2 licks, which I tried, but not successfully. But they are nice kind of climax. I think I played them in my opening solo. If you go listen to that, I think I played them somewhere at the end when I felt, you know, this song needs some really like some kind of scream, right? That's why I use these phrases. And this is the last phrase, which is a 2-5-1 lick with a bluesy flavor. It sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Three, 4, 1, 2. faster. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now I changed the fingering to stay in position because I assume, or I think I heard that George Benson is playing the end. So he starts there. Maybe he even does. I'm not sure about that. But the end. So let's assume he stays up. Like that. That makes more sense, of course, because we're back in that pentatonic box. But I kept it high. I like to doing that because then I can also play it in other keys. For instance, if I want to play it in D, it would be right here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. You couldn't do that if you would use a lot of neck for this lick. So, what can I say about it? This is just a lick that you have to learn. It's just a 2-5-1 lick. There's a little thing above the last E flat, and I mean you could do a blues scroll there, right? A blues scroll is when you push up the note, but not a half step, but just a little, like a little collar. So you could do that if you want. Very cool. So let me play that on the 2-5-1 here in the blues. I was thinking maybe I should also play it on not a blues, right? Because this is just 2-5-1 lick. So let me play it on Coquette, because that would be in D. Let me see if I can find that fast on my channel. By the way, all the backing tracks I'm using, they are on my channel, and there's a link to a complete playlist with all the backing tracks in the description. And you will also find the link to Patreon there. So if you want to download any of these steps, you can just go there. And of course, the next video will be on Patreon, and we're going to talk about how to do all of this stuff on a minor tune. Okay, I found the backing track, and I'm thinking I can also play it on the bridge, because that would be a 2-5-1 in G. And then the phrase would be here. Let me try that. little bit more tricky to play in a faster tempo, but definitely doable, and I think it's very cool. So here you go, the first 7 phrases or principles that you can work on. I will be back with another video and we're going to look at 7 more licks. Some of them are pretty difficult. If you want to know how to do this stuff on a minor tune, it's very different, then you can join my Patreon. I will make a video about that next week. And then I will make a final video for my highest level patrons. That will be $10 and up. And I will look more at Ulva Kenius because I have a ton of stuff transcribed from him and how he applies blues principles to standards, not only blueses. I hope you enjoyed it and I will see you in the next video. Bye!